Chapter 26, Anna. I'm halfway through it. I glance to the side and see his face, pale and crumpled, reflected in the nearest mirror. I take my foot off the accelerator, but I don't turn around. Why don't we take a walk, pay our respects? Oh, Annie, love, I don't know. Please, Uncle Billy, I don't want to go on my own. There's a heavy silence, then he agrees. I drive to the car park where Mum and Dad left their cars. I don't need to look for ghosts here. They're all around us. The paths they trod, the signs they passed. Our last came on Mum's birthday, feeling closer to her up here than in the corner of the churchyard, where two small plaques mark my parents' lives. The cliff looked the same, but the question in my head have changed. No longer why, but who. Who was Mum with that day? What was Dad doing up there? Suicide. Think again. Okay? Billy nods tightly. I lock the car and take his arm. He relaxes a little, and we walk towards the headland, focus on the good times, I think. Remember that time you and Dad dressed as the Crankies for the summer party? Billy laughs. We argued over who got to be wee Jimmy, and I won because I was the short ass only then. Then the two of you got pissed and fought about it all over again. We burst out laughing at the memory of wee Jimmy and Dad rolling around the showroom floor. Dad and Uncle Billy fought in a way only brothers fight, fast and furious, and over as soon as it began. We fall into a companionable silence as we walk, interspersed with occasional snorts of laughter as Billy recalls the night of the Crankies all over again. He squeezes my arm. Thank you for making me come. It was about time I faced up to it. We're standing on the cliff top now, safely back from the edge. Neither of us have proper coats on, and the rain is coming from all directions, soaking through my running jacket. Out at sea, a small boat with red sails cut through grey choppy water. I think of Mum standing where we are now. Was she scared? Or was she here with someone she trusted, someone she thought was a friend, a lover even? Although the thought sickens me, it is possible my mother had been having an affair. Do you think she knew? Billy didn't say anything. When she came up here, do you think she knew she was going to die? Anna, don't. Billy starts walking back towards the car park. I run to catch up. Don't you want to know what really happened? No. Give me the keys. I'll drive back. The rain has pasted Billy's hair to his head. He holds out his hands, but I stand still, defiant, the keys between us. Don't you see, if Mum and Dad were killed, it changes everything. It means they didn't leave us. They didn't give up on us, on life. The police will look for the murderer. They'll find answers for us, Billy. We stare at each other, and then to my horror I see Billy is crying. His mouth works without words, like the TV on mute, and then he turns up the sound, and I wish with all my being I'd driven towards Hastings instead. I don't want answers, Annie. I don't want to think about how they died. I want to think about the way they lived. I want to remember the good times and the funny times and nights in the pub. His voice gets gradually louder until he's shouting at me, the wind whipping the words straight at me. The tears have stopped, but I've never seen Billy like this before. I've never seen him out of control. His fists are tightly balled and he shifts from one foot to another, like he's spoiling for a fight. Mum was murdered. Surely you want to know who did it? It won't change anything. It won't bring her back. But we'll have justice. Someone will pay for what they did. Billy turns and walks away. I run after him, pulling him back by the shoulder. I just want answers, Uncle Billy. I loved her so much. He stops walking, but he won't look at me, and in his face is a mixture of grief and anger and something else, something confusing. Understanding comes a split second before he speaks. So quietly, the wind almost takes it away without me hearing it. Almost, but not quite. So do I. We sit in the car park watching the rain on the windscreen. Every now and then, a strong gust of wind rocks the car, and I'm glad we came down from the cliffs when we did. I remember the first time I saw her, Billy says, and it should feel awkward, but it doesn't, because he's not really here. He's not sitting in a Porsche Boxer at Beachy Head with his niece. He's somewhere else entirely, remembering. Tom and I were living in London. Tom had done some big deals at work, and we'd gone to Amnesia to celebrate. VIP passes the lot. It was a big night. Tom drank champagne all night, spent the whole time on the sofa with a string of girls. I think he thought he was Peter Stringfellow. Billy gives me a sidelong glance. He flushes and I worry he's going to clam up, but he keeps talking. It was 1989. Your mum was there with a friend. They didn't give a second glance to the VIP area. They were on the dance floor all night. She was stunning, your mum. Every now and then some girl would come up to them and make a move, but they weren't interested. Girls' night out, Caroline said later. You spoke to her? Not then, but I gave her my number. I'd been plucking up the courage all night. Then suddenly it was last orders and everyone was leaving, and I thought I'd missed my chance. I've almost forgotten that he's talking about my mother. I'm captivated by the expression on Billy's face. I've never seen him like this before. Then there she was in this queue for the cloakroom, and I thought, if I don't do it now, so I did. I asked if she would take my number, give me a call, only I didn't have a pen. And she laughed and said it was I the sort said I was the sort of bloke who would forget his wallet too. And a friend found an eyeliner pencil, and I wrote my number on Caroline's arm. I can see it so clearly. Mum in her 80s finery, big hair and neon leggings. Uncle Billy, gorge and wearing, sweating with nerves. Mum would have been 21, which would have made Billy 28. Dad's 3 years older. Did she call you? Billy nodded. We went out for a drink, had dinner a few days later. I took her to see Simply Red at the Albert Hall. Then he stopped. What happened? I introduced her to Tom. We sat in silence for a while, and I think about poor Uncle Billy and wonder how I feel about my parents breaking his heart. I saw it straight away. She had a laugh with me, but when I went to get the drinks and then I came back and I stood in the doorway and watched them. Oh, Billy, they didn't. No, nothing like that. Not for ages. Not till they both talked to me and apologized and said they never meant to hurt me. But they had this connection. I already knew I'd lost her. Then you all worked together. How could you spare it? Billy gave a rueful laugh. What was I supposed to do? Lose Tom too? By the time your granddad got ill and Tom and I took over the business, you were on your way and it was water under the bridge. He shakes himself and turns to me with his trademark jollity. Except that I know it's an act, and I wonder how many other times I've been fooled. I wonder if Mum and Dad were fooled. I love you, Uncle Billy. I love you too, sweetheart. Now let's get you back to the baby of yours, shall we? We drive back sedately. Billy commanded the Boxer, like he's in a Toyota Yaris. He drops me off outside Oakview. One more sleep, he says, the way he used to when I was a kid. I'll see you first thing in the morning. We'll have a great Christmas. I mean it. Billy didn't let his past dictate his future, and I can't either. Mum and Dad are gone, and whatever the circumstances of their deaths, nothing's going to change that. Joan isn't due back with Ella for another hour. Ignoring the damp seeping through my running clothes, I put on an apron and make 2 batches of mince pies. I fill the slow cooker with red wine, orange slice, and spices, pouring in a generous glug of brandy, and turn the heat on low. The doorbell rings, and I rinse my hands and look for a towel. It rings again. All right, I'm coming. Rita barks just once, and I put my hand on her collar, half to chastise, half in reassurance. She lets out a series of miniature growls like a raving engine, but doesn't bark again. Her wagging tail tells me there's nothing amiss. Our front door is painted white, with a stained glass panel across the top half that catches afternoon sun and throws colours into the tile floor. When visitors arrive, their silhouettes stretch out across the floor, interrupting the rainbow. As a child, I would tiptoe around the edges of the hall when I answered the door. Stepping through someone's shadow felt like walking on a grave. The winter sun is low, and the visitor's scalp line stretches thin like the reflection in a carnival mirror. The head almost touching the base of the banister. I trod again. I skirt the wall towards the door. Rita had no such qualm. She bounds across the shadow, her claws skittering, and comes to a skidding halt by the front door. I turn the key, open the door, and then the world falls silent, and I can hear it in. All I can hear is the blood pounding in my head. I see a car pass in the street, but it makes no noise because the drumming in my ears beats faster and faster, and I put out my hand to steady myself, but it isn't enough, and my knees are buckling beneath me, and it can't be, but there on the step, somehow different, and yet the same, there on the step, undeniably alive, is my mother. Ooh. Part 2, Chapter 27, Anna. I have lost the power of speech. I have lost the power of thought. 1,000 questions race around my head, and I wonder if perhaps I've gone mad. If I'm imagining that my dead mother, is standing on my top step, Her hair, long and kept ash blonde for as long as I can remember, has been dyed black, the length cropped harshly to above her chin. She wears unflattering wire-framed glasses and a shapeless, baggy dress, unlike anything else I've ever seen her in. Mum? I whispered. I whispered it, afraid that speaking out loud will break whatever spell has been cast, and that my mother, this odd new version of my mother, will vanish as quickly as she appeared. She opens her mouth, but it seems I'm the only one lost for words. I see the tears build above her lower lashes, and as they fall, I see the wetness on my cheeks. Mum? Louder this time, but still hesitant. I don't know what happened, but I don't want to question it. My mother has come back to me. I've been given a second chance. Pressure builds in my chest, and it seems impossible my ribs can contain the thumping coming from my heart. I let go of Rita because I can't breathe, and I need my arms free. I need to put my hands to my face to feel I'm real because this can't be happening. It can't be happening. Rita springs forward and jumps at Mum, licking her hands and weaving between her legs, whining and wagging her tail furiously. My mother, whose frozen stance has until now mirrored mine, bends to fuss her, and the familiarity movement releases an involuntary grasp from within me, as though I've emerged from water. You're. I drag each word out in the world, as if using them for the first time. Actually, here? She straightens, takes a breath. Her tears have stopped, but there's such anxiety in her eyes. It's as though she's the one mourning me. Life is moving like sand beneath my feet, and I don't know what's real and what's not anymore. I'm seized by paranoia. Has the last year been a nightmare? Could it have been me who died? It feels that way. My head spins with a lightheadedness that makes me sway, and my mother steps forward, one hand outstretched in concern. I step back, confused, making me frightened, and she takes her hand away, hurt in her eyes. I've started to cry noisily, and she glances over her shoulder towards the road. Every movement she makes is achingly familiar. Every movement makes this harder to understand because it means this isn't my imagination. I haven't conjured a vision of my mother. I haven't gone mad. She isn't a ghost. She is actually here, living, breathing. What happened? I don't understand. Can I come in? My mother's voice, low and calm, is the voice of my childhood, of bedtime stories and post-night terror reassurance. She calls the dogs, who are tired of running circles around her, and is sniffing the gravel at the bottom of the steps. Rita obeys instantly, trotting inside. My mother takes another curious glance around, hesitates on the threshold, waiting to be asked. I have imagined this moment every day for the last year. I have dreamed about it, fantasized about it, coming home and finding my parents going about their business as though nothing had happened, as though the whole thing had been a terrible dream. I've imagined getting a call from the police to tell me my father was swept out to sea, that he was rescued by a fishing boat, lost his memory, that my mother survived her fall, that they were coming back to me. In my dreams, I throw myself at my parents. We cling to each other fiercely, hugging, touching, making sure. And then we talk, words tumbling over each other, interrupting, crying, apologizing, promising. In my dream, there is noise and happiness and sheer joy. My mother and I stand silently in the doorway. The grandfather clock whirs in the prelude to the hour. Rita, who has never liked the sound, disappears to the kitchen, having presumably satisfied herself that her mistress is here, is real. The chimes ring out. When my father brought back his clock, bought at auction the year I started secondary school, the three of us looked at each other as it rang the hour. We'll never sleep through that, my mother said, half laughing, half appalled. Even the ticking was intrusive, echoing each passing second in the empty hall. But sleep we did, and before too long I only noticed the clock when the mechanism had stopped, and the absence of tick tock made the house feel empty. Now we look at each other, my mother and I, as each hour echoes into the space between us. Only when it has stopped and the final peal has faded does she speak. I know this is a shock. Was there ever more of an understatement? We've got a lot to talk about. I find my voice. You didn't die? There were so many questions, but this one, the fundamental truth, is one which I am struggling the most. She didn't die. She isn't a ghost. She shakes her head. We didn't die. We? I hold my breath. Dad? A beat. Darling, there's a lot you have to know. Slowly, I make my brains compute what I'm hearing. My father is alive. My parents didn't die at Beachy Head. So it was an accident? I knew it. Was certain of it. My parents would never try to kill themselves. But an accident? Not murder? An accident? 2 accidents? A ticker tape runs through my head as I apply this new narrative to the scene I never have understood. 2 accidents, eyewitnesses mistaken. Falls, not jumps. Identical falls. The tape stops. Aside from my mother, resigned, tired, she fidgets, pushing one black strand of hair behind her ear in a gesture futile now that it is too short. She nods towards the kitchen. Can I come in? But the ticker tape has jammed. It twists into knots in my head because what I'm imagining doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. Dad sent you a text. The longest of pause. Yes, she holds my gaze. Please, can we sit down inside? It's complicated. But suddenly it seems simple, and the shifting sand beneath my feet grows still, and the tilted world starts to spin again. There's only one explanation. You faked your deaths? I observe my calmness as though standing in the wings, congratulate myself on my presence of mind. Yet even as I say it, even as I know without any shred of doubt that I'm right, I pray that I'm wrong because it's preposterous, because it's illegal, immoral, but more than that, because it's cruel, because they're leaving me broke my heart and has continued to chip away at it every day since. And to know that my parents did that deliberately will shatter it completely. My mother's face screws up like paper. Tears splash into the stone step. A single word, yes. The hand I move the hand I move could belong to someone else. I touch the edge of the door lightly with 2 fingers and I slam it hard in her face.